favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. All right, we've got the minutes approved. Stephanie, do you want to give us a update on the work plan? You have 2 draft audits that were submitted in the past couple of weeks. Do you want to say anything about those before we actually discuss them?
I don't have much to say except that they were submitted, and I have reached out to the other 2 departments that were approved for an audit on August 10th.
Okay, yeah, and we have a new audit work plan that was just approved within the past couple weeks. So I presume at our next meeting we'll get the update on that as you move forward. So we wanted to go ahead and talk about the, just briefly, just a quick overview, since these audits were just submitted as drafts. We haven't gotten the responses from the departments yet. Just see if anybody on the committee had any questions, concerns, if the auditor could talk to us about the process, if there was anything that came up in the process of these 2 audits, which I believe were assigned about 2 and 2+ years ago. So Stephanie, is there anything you want to say about either of these and any comments on the process?
The process for, just briefly, I would like to speak about the fleet management audit. That audit shouldn't have taken as long as it did. It was delayed due to conflict within the department, and I just thought it best to step back and start a different audit until everyone cooled down, and we restarted the audit after the animal services audit. So it got stuck in the calendar, but it wasn't due to not working on the audit. It was putting it in a different place on the calendar.
Okay, so when the animal services came up, which kind of came up, you know, in an emergency situation, and was added to the work plan, you prioritized animal services over fleet management. Is that what you're trying to say? Because there was some conflict in the department. The old department manager left, department head left, and so I feel like that's something that maybe should be noted at the front end of the audits, that some of the material in the audits or the process began under different management. That might be something worth noting at the front end of the audits. Does anybody have any comments on either of the audits? I hope everybody had a chance to at least skim them.
Well, what Chair, what was the timeline for the fleet management audit? When was it first assigned?
You know, I don't have that in front of me. Stephanie, do you have that in front of you?
I believe it was.
It says on the first page, January 2018, it was approved by the Mayor and Commission.
Okay. So it was February 2018?
It says January 2018.
January.
Yeah, that was I can help a little bit with that history, Chair Link. It was the FY17 work plan. And so we had worked through it sort of in the fall, but didn't get it voted on until that January. And the audit conclusions on fleet management state that it covers the FY16, 17, and 18 information of fleet management. So I agree that it would be helpful if those timeframes of the audit also listed the staff, the department, head, and how it was changed from one being under transportation and public works and then was shifted to where it is now. I think that it's important to list the staffing as well as listing the persons who worked on the audit. I know that there's been a lot of staff that worked on this audit in those years, as well as interns and contract workers. So I think that that's also relevant to list within the audit.
Okay. This was a time before I was even on the committee, so that's helpful to know. know that.
Well, if the audit was assigned in February 2018, David Fluck left in September of 2019, so that was 18 months after it was assigned. So we will put together a timeline from our perspective on any things like that had happened.
I don't know if that's necessary. I would like to remind everybody the Sheriff's Office audit took 14 months to complete, and I believe that it was discussed in the committee for 4 months. And so that's over a year and a half. Right after that, we continued on with the rest of the work plan.
The sheriff's audit was also expanded to include medical.
It was expanded. Mm-hmm.
So I feel like this fleet management audit just kept getting shirked to the bottom of the pile along the way.
Melissa, Carol here. I would say that right at the beginning there is mention that that fleet management was housed in Transportation and Public Works, and then beginning in FY18 it was transferred to Central Services. So that's right there. But I did want to ask Stephanie, because I did spend some time reviewing this today, the assessment of the other fleet management activities. I just wanted to see what the update was on that, and now that I've read it, I understand a little bit more, and what the numbers are, where we are in that process of finishing that part of the assessment.
The FY16 and FY18 numbers for fuel, fleet replacement, and fleet management are prepared, and I spoke with Director Saunders this afternoon about receiving FY 19, 20, and 21 to add to the report. And as soon as he gets that to me, I should be able to submit that within a day or two.
And I emailed that to you around 4 p.m. today, so you should be good to go.
And so I should be able to resend the report out with those new numbers added to the report tomorrow.
That's good to hear. That's great to hear. Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else have any commentary on the fleet management audit? And then we can move to animal services.
Actually, Melissa, can I ask you and others who have been on this committee for longer to just give me an overview of how things go at this point? I mean, I know you're getting sort of initial reactions, but then how does this happen from our point in terms of reviewing this? Is this a page-by-page review, or how does that work?
In the past, it hasn't been necessarily a page-by-page review. And I don't want to get into too much depth with these audits because the departments have not had the opportunity to respond. You know, I feel like our next meeting, once the responses have been folded into the entire report, we can get a little more in depth. I just wanted to have this opportunity to, first of all, acknowledge that the drafts have been submitted and that they're with the departments now, and to give the committee any opportunity to ask any questions about the process. If there's anything just that needs to be asked of the auditor off the bat, I wanted this opportunity. But our next step is the responses will be folded in. So I believe the responses are due. What's the due date for the responses, Stephanie?
It's September 4th, but that is a Saturday. So it'll be the next business day after the holiday.
Okay, so
if that is okay with the commission.
When can we expect the final report to be prepared?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Link, I didn't hear the first part of your question.
When can we expect the final report to be ready with the responses properly folded in?
It usually takes about a week.
Okay.
To combine the responses into the report and reformat.
Okay. So we'll probably set a next meeting date for mid-September, mid to late September, maybe a little bit maybe late September to give us the opportunity to thoroughly read them.
And can I ask you just a clarification again, Melissa, on this, or from Stephanie? When you say they're folded in, are they folded into the to the whole narrative, the whole thing, or is there an extra, like a response section, or just everything else is sort of revised with what's going on now, or any responses?
So the report won't necessarily be revised. The department's response will be combined with the report that you received, and you'll have one report with the combined document with both documents.
Okay.
So there's a section at the very end of the report, which is their template where they complete and where they respond.
Yes.
They're going to complete that and send that back to me, and I'm going to include that, wrap it into the main report, and send out one document.
Okay, so it's like an appendix with the response.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else with any questions about the fleet management or just questions in general about the process? Okay. Well, let's move on to animal services. I had the same, I had the same concerns about animal services, just making it a little more prominent that significant changes have already occurred in this department. I feel like that's buried a little bit. So I think it's clearer at the very beginning that, there's a good narrative on what prompted the audit in the first place. But I think making it clear that, there's already been significant response to some of these issues would be helpful.
So that section at the end, I can move that to the beginning. The changes and improvements that they've completed so far.
Yeah, or even just amending the executive summary at the beginning to more clearly state, where we are and how the department is no longer a division of central services, but it's its own standalone department under management. Does anybody have any comment on that? Does anybody else have anything to say about the animal services audit?
I'll just have to admit I didn't have time to read it, so.
Yeah, I only looked at the findings, so I kind of want to keep back up from it until we do get the responses. So, but I did notice in the executive summary that felt like a reframing of the narrative.
Right, and I agree. And Carol, just to piggyback on your, since this is your first time with this process, is when you don't have enough time to read the drafts, you have plenty of time to make it up. So I'll probably wait until the information's folded in from the departments, because then I'm reading it with that feedback, right? And then fleet management I've read, so then I'll probably skim the next version of it, and just for where Stephanie is, I love that word, folded in, Stephanie. We've been using it for years. Fold it in, for the feedback, and then does it go back for staff after that fold in?
No, typically that's when we approve it. I remember with the sheriff's audit, we had some additional questions even after that folding in, and there was some more response requested from the sheriff's department.
Right. Well,
there's always that.
Yeah, and I remember that the mayor felt that maybe we shouldn't be doing that when that had happened, because it did, it dragged it out, right? Yeah. And it interfered with the pace of the other things, as you said. The shirked to the bottom of the pile. You know what I mean? The sheriff's audit was just so grandiose. But anyway, so there's that ability, and there has been times. So when we get the folded in audit and we meet again, then we vote not to approve it. I think it's accept it, Melissa?
it, and
then we vote to send it to the full mayor and commission to accept the audit. Those are,
yes.
Carol, those are like the step points. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. That does make sense. And I'm thinking, I did just finish reading the animal services one like moments ago. And again, I was probably skimming it a little bit to like kind of get to the end. So that review of the events was really helpful. And I think I was getting a little confused again about the shift, like the change. Like it would have been nice if there was some chart that helped me understand how the positions changed out. Like this is where it was at the beginning, this is where it is now. And it might be in there, and if I read it again, I might be going like, I don't need that. But I was starting to get a little confused by the different changes and maybe even when some of the things were made in terms of the timeline. Because again, there were, and maybe it was even the shift in the leadership that was confusing to me, because there was an assistant who moved into the director, and I was a little bit confused by what was happening under which leadership as a novice person who was reading this fairly quickly and has no experience with animal services and was not following that one with a fine tooth, as many in the community.
I think that's good feedback, because I think that these reports are supposed to stand alone and allow somebody to not have history with it, right? And read and learn. So I think the organizational chart, maybe some of that stuff in the report could have a date on it.
Okay.
So that it captures it. And Stephanie, I think, again, just glancing at this, the fact that you have a whole timeline of events, February 2018 to September 2019, if that captures a good bit of it, I guess just continuing to note in the content the dates when these things happened, and then the changes, whether it's personnel. And then same with credit on the report being to all the staff and interns and contractors that helps you with it.
So maybe it would be helpful to have an organizational chart of animal control before it was, reorganized and named animal services. It might be helpful to have that previous chart presented in the audit as an indication of, what the changes are.
Okay. I do appreciate that feedback, because that information, all of the position changes over 4 years, is included in the report. But it is a lot, and just if you're not very familiar with it, it can be confusing. I can illustrate it a different way so it's clearer.
Yeah, and I guess I was trying to figure out, I just was reading about how much turnover there was in so many positions, but in terms of the leadership of the animal services, that was where I was a little getting a little lost, because I wanted to have credit I wanted to know, maybe just little reminders in there to remind you that this is what the current leadership, or that the changes that have happened under the current leadership. I saw that in there, but it could have been maybe highlighted a little bit more.
Okay. Thank you.
But I'll look at that again too as well, Stephanie.
Russell and Patrick, do you have any input on any of this?
No.
Okay. Well, we kind of want to wrap this meeting up pretty quickly, because we do have another meeting to be in about a half an hour. Is there any other business we want to attend to?
I don't know, Melissa, when we were talking about that, I feel like you and Stephanie and I were talking about this. You were saying not to keep incorporating giving the departments yet another chance to come back. But we were all talking at one point about incorporating some 6 months or a year like later follow-up that the department would give us. Right. And
Yeah.
It seems like it would be a good somewhere in this process to put that in there. So a year later, here's an update of what's happened or not happened, so that the audits wouldn't just disappear once all this good work had gone into them.
Yeah, actually, thank you for bringing that up, Carol. Yeah, we had discussed this, and Stephanie brought it up too. We approved these audits, and then they just kind of, we released them into the wild, and there's no follow-up to make sure that they're actually being followed up upon within the departments. So maybe we should think about, at an upcoming meeting, revisiting that workflow chart and putting in like a 6 month and maybe a 1 year follow up, or maybe just start with 1 year. I know 6 months can go up pretty quickly. Maybe 1 year and then 2 years, to give the departments a chance to, show that they've taken the audit to heart and that they are implementing changes and following up on recommendations. So maybe we can all kind of mull that over in our brains. And our next meeting is going to be really busy because we're going to be talking about both of these audits. So it might be something that we talk about once we've fully approved these audits. But yeah, everybody keep that in mind. I think that would be a good idea, and it would also be helpful to the public. So
yeah, I think so. There was a lot of these are the first ones I'm really, I am reading as a commissioner, and there's a lot of normal good things in here. Continuous improvement is part of just what happens. You gotta and we're all stretched. And so every once in a while, it's good to have these opportunities where it's like, oh, this is something that we need to work on, or get this down and this process in there. So having something, like a year later, if there's a manual, or to see the retention rates or training opportunities, or would be really helpful. And I think would be a responsible thing for us as commissioners to ask for as well. Because this is all just about helping the government run more efficiently and effectively.
So yeah, maybe once we release these 2 audits for approval by the whole Mayor and Commission, we can have a meeting and put that on the agenda to talk about that process, and adding a couple boxes to that workflow chart that allows us to follow up. Okay. Anything else? Yeah.
Shirley, did you want to speak on structure, role, and responsibilities of the committee, or was that decided at the March 10th meeting? I sent the motion that Commissioner Myers developed to you. Is that still under discussion?
That has been forwarded to the mayor, so it is up to the mayor to assign that to a committee at this point. There has been some one-on-one discussion about it, and as it relates to other initiatives that are going on in the government. So there is some discussion, but it is fully the mayor's responsibility to assign something like that to a committee.
Okay. I'll take it off of the agenda.
Well, that's good, Melissa, for me. So that was sent on to, because I was reading the minutes, and that was sent on to the mayor's office.
Yes.
Okay.
That was from our March 10th meeting. That was our last audit committee meeting.
Yes.
March 10th.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we held off on having a meeting until these drafts were presented. So gave us a little break there. Do we want to go ahead and look at the calendar and figure out what would be an appropriate meeting time, seeing as how the responses to these audits are due from the departments? I guess September 6th, since that's the Monday after the 4th.
That's Labor Day. I mean, that's Labor Day holiday. So the 7th is what we should be shooting for the 30 days. I thought that fleet management needed a little more time.
I'm going to resend it out tomorrow. So I would think the 30 days would start tomorrow for that department.
Oh, I'm sorry. Tell me that again, Stephanie. I'm sorry.
That assessment is the only thing so the report includes 4 findings, and that's not going to change, and it's not going to, and I'm not adding findings to the report. I'm just adding a data table to the report that I'm going to insert and send out tomorrow.
And so does that start the 30 days for them?
I'm not sure.
So then that department gets 30 days starting when you send that. Is that is this right, Melissa?
I mean, perhaps, I guess. I don't know how weighty that information is, but maybe we should just go ahead and wait till October to have our next meeting when we're sure that, both departments have had the opportunity to fully respond, and those responses have had plenty of time to be folded in.
Right. Well, what we could consider is if the complete audit for fleet management was going to be put together tomorrow, based on information that came today, I think it's advantageous that these 2 audits aren't on the same timeline, right? So we're talking about one staggered, I guess, is what I'm feeling. That I think we have an opportunity now for it to stagger. So fleet management, if the new data table goes out tomorrow, I say that starts the 30 days. And then Melissa, I think we can go ahead and talk about a September meeting for animal services. You see what I mean? And then we're just talking about one at a time.
Sense. That does make sense. Okay, well, so what was the 30-day date for animal services?
September 5th, but then we've got the Saturday as a holiday, as Stephanie said, that's a Saturday. So if we said 9/7, isn't that right, Stephanie, what you were saying? It's just move it past the holiday?
That's correct. So the first business day would be Tuesday the 7th. And the previous meetings, I think, have been on the second Wednesday of the month. So that would be September
the
8th.
15th. No,
Or the 15th if you wanted to do the third Wednesday.
Well, we want to give you the opportunity to fully fold them in so we have a truly complete report. And we also need probably at least a week for members of this committee to read that report, because I know that most of us haven't thoroughly read these reports. I haven't.
Yeah, and I've already let everybody know I haven't read it either.
I mean, I kind of was holding back because I want to wait for the full report with these responses.
The 15th would be the earliest that I could guarantee folding it in and sending it back out to everyone. The 22nd would be more comfortable.
Okay.
But it's up to you all. I know your schedules are very busy.
Why don't we try to have a meeting that last week of September, like the 27th or the 29th? And we don't have any mayor and commission meetings that week, so hopefully it'll be a little bit lighter on us.
Yeah, and it's going to be right before AthFest too. Won't that be lovely? If we have it. So we want to pencil in Wednesday of the last weekend.
We want to do Wednesday the 29th of September.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do that. And I prefer a 5:30 meeting time. It's really hard for me to wrap up work and get things started at 5. So yeah, is 5:30 okay with everyone?
5:30 is fine with me.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's September 29th. And we're anticipating getting the report to start reading the 22nd. Stephanie, that's when you said what's more comfortable?
Yeah, at the latest, the 22nd.
Okay. All right. Well,
that's definitely a full week to read it.
Yeah. Okay.
And then at that meeting, we'll discuss, when we want to have a meeting to look at the fleet management audit. So we can kind of play it by ear here at this stage.
Yeah, I appreciate you splitting it up too. I think that's how I lost steam on reading the second audit, because I had the two at the time. So thanks for staggering that. I think that might help all of us.
It makes total sense. Okay, well, does anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And I'll second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
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 All right. Okay, we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting, and I'll see some of y'all in the next meeting.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.